Recording, okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this is an interesting situation. This is a first for us. I can see Virginia. Hi, Virginia. First for you, I think, too. So we have both the people in the room and the people on the screen, and it's an interesting new exploration. And actually, in that little break, I thought, oh, it's taken a pandemic. Can you hear me all right? Nod if you can hear me. Yeah, good, great, lots of thumbs up. So it's like it's taken a pandemic for us to think of actually inviting you to come into our shrine room. All of these people who don't manage to get here, so that's kind of sweet. It's happening. And sorry, it's a little distracting if you do
that. People can't see me, but no. You can.
Maybe I can do.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So something that's been coming up for me, just popping into my mind really as a theme over the last days, is the Buddha's teaching on nutriment, or you could call that fuel. That everything subsists, everything is supported by fuel or by nutriment, and so to be mindful about what we are nourishing ourselves with. And of course, that's there's the physical, there's the food nourishment. To be nourishing ourselves with good food, not lots of junk food is a good thing. And also what we nourish our hearts and minds with. And I was thinking particularly about what I was thinking for myself actually, what I'm nourishing in my mind. So what qualities, or heart and mind, what qualities am I nourishing and what am I neglecting? And how easy it is if we're not aware that everything we put our attention is in itself like a nourishment, and if we're not paying careful attention, then we can be nourishing what is really unhelpful and unwholesome, and we can be justifying it. There can be stories as to why it's okay to do that, and it really is that person's fault, or it really is because the leadership is crazy, or it really is because the world is in a terrible mess, or it really is because of a pain in my body, or whatever it might be. And then we start to believe the stories of why we can justify cultivating negative mind states. And the Buddha so strongly encourages the importance of cultivating wholesome mind states. So strongly encourages, and if starting with the mind, and then also with speech and action following that. And we can forget that easily, just get into the old patterns. So I was reflecting on, what am I doing, and where are the places that there's carelessness and letting the mind wander into places that are just going to drag me off in the wrong direction, or where there are places that are anxious, or where there are places that are resentful, and then getting interested in those, not in a way of feeding them more, but in a way of dismantling them through careful attention. so there's many different ways that the Buddha speaks about the importance of cultivating wholesome qualities. And he actually, there's this phrase that comes up again and again in the suttas, not shirking one's responsibility of cultivating wholesome states. Not shirking one's responsibility of cultivating wholesome states. I think that's a great line, because it's not just like it's a good thing to do, or there's a should in it, but it's like, as practitioners, this is our responsibility. This is what we rise up to. This is what we have to remember to put energy into, and it does take remembering. So one of the translations of sati is to remember. Sati, mindfulness, to be aware, and it's also to remember, because we have to remember to cultivate the wholesome. It's much easier to just slip into the old habits of having a very small mind, very small heart and mind. It's kind of easier in some ways. It can be more familiar. But the Buddha is encouraging us, this is the opportunity to cultivate wholesome states. Don't miss the opportunity. And there's another line in one of the reflections that's given for the gone forth ones, but I think it's really relevant to everybody. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? I think this is a really good one, because especially now, I mean always, but here we are, everyone's in lockdown, everyone's in their shelter in place, and the days and nights are relentlessly passing. And for us in the monastery, we're kind of well trained in the days and nights being, like another day is much like another day, and that's not so unfamiliar for us. But for many of you, it may be quite different to be stuck at home, a lot of all of the time now for weeks. And so the days and nights are relentlessly passing. Not to be waiting until it's all over, How well am I spending my time? And one can just sort of easily drop into a bit of a sort of get sort of lazy and sloppy, feel it's all a bit pointless, or not know what to do with oneself, or get anxious. And all of those things, they are essentially cultivating the 5 hindrances. And the Buddha so strongly encourages us to be aware and attentive of when we're doing that, and to be aware and attentive when the awakening factors are being cultivated. So it's easy to slip it. The hindrances are always waiting for an opportunity. They're always like close by, unless we're in deep states of meditation. They will be close by. They'll be looking for an opportunity to get in and take over and convince us that desire really, like following desire, really is the right thing to do right now, or your aversion is really justified, or you really do need to sleep now, even though you had 9 hours already, and you're going to be able to have an early night. That's or that there's a good reason to be anxious, or doubt. What should I do? What should I be doing? What's going to happen? Those are the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and agitation, and doubt. And they're going to be around, so we might as well pay careful attention to them. And then when we know what's present, instead of just becoming the ill will, or becoming the anxiety, or becoming the dullness, or doubt, then we can start to recognize, like, Oh, the Buddha actually gave us antidotes to these. So the antidote to a lot of sensual desire is renunciation. In some ways, you're having forced renunciation to some degree. You're kind of having to give up a lot of things you were doing before. And we in the monastery choose it as a path because it's a beautiful path. Actually, it's clear, it's open, it's light. Not always easy. Letting go isn't always easy, but the letting go isn't always easy, but when you let go, it's a lightness. It's wonderful. So to remember that, and that's also renunciation is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. We're on track when we're letting go of just indulging in pleasant things to stay sort of semi-conscious in a way. And ill will, aversion, fear, anxiety, metta. I love to practice metta with the breath, breathing in a sense of metta and breathing out. Also, it can first of all breathe out any blocks, or then breathing out metta for all beings. And really learning to generate, like taking the opportunity to generate that quality in the heart as an energy, not just try to have metta for each person, but generate it as a field within yourself. It's like a power. It's like a superpower in a way. When you really cultivate it, and then challenging things come into the heart, into the heart space, and when there's a strong enough field of metta, then they're received in a way that doesn't knock you around. And then there can be a more gentle and wise and responsive, gentle and wise response. I suppose that's what I want to say. Instead of reacting or shutting down, there can be more of an openness and a responsiveness to what otherwise we would push away. Metta is so important to cultivate. And then sleepiness and dullness, it's a tricky one because that's so, it sort of creeps up on you quietly when you're not looking, and it can be very justifiable. I know a lot of people like just want to just stay in their pajamas now. When you're not going anywhere, just stay in your pajamas and get back into bed when you like. And in the monastery we have a practice of when you get up and get out of bed, and then you can air your bed, and then you come back and you make your bed. It's done for the day, finished. Bed's tidy, put away. It's not a bed anymore. It's not going to be. It's no longer enticing. You're done with it for the day. And then at night, you get back into your bed and sleep. And in the morning, you get up and once you're up, you put it aside, so to speak. So it's a good practice. And if there's sleepiness and dullness, to generate that, to generate a sense of interest, a sense of energy and interest in presence. I used to ask about what to do about sloth and torpor because I had so much of it when I first started to meditate, and people would tell me, investigate the sloth and torpor, and I like, that's impossible. I can't do that because I just fall into it. But it can do it actually. It can be done. But you can also just put your attention, energy into something. What would you like to cultivate in this time? What would you like to use this time for, this precious life? We don't know how long it's going to last. It might just be another hour, another breath. We don't know. So, the days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? And restlessness and worry. So there's a lot of good reasons to get caught in restlessness and worry. we're faced really with a much more real and immediate experience of the truth of samsara. It's not so easy to fool ourselves right now that samsara is deeply and inherently flawed. Samsara being the cycle of birth and death. It's deeply flawed, and it always has been, and it always will be, because that is the nature of samsara. And it's out of our control. I think there must be so many people thinking, if I could rule the world, I would do this and I would do that. And yet we've got agency over the world of our own six senses, that we can have agency over in terms of how we respond and how we relate to the contact that we come into, that we experience. And so just getting to know, when something's painful, knowing it is painful. When something's pleasant, knowing it is pleasant. And just exploring that relationship to experience of it's just like this. And seeing, is it possible to just know that without the extra add-on of I want more, I want to get rid of, I wish it would go away. So just to sort of undo the pushing and pulling of samsara by knowing it as it is, knowing its nature. It's everything's in a state of flux, everything's in process. And the more we can rest into that, then the more peaceful it is, because we're aligned with what's true. So we don't have to be afraid. None of us know what's going to happen next. We never have done, actually. We just fooled ourselves, we did. So the more we rest into this, the not knowing, the openness, the more peace there is. And that's also been coming up for me quite a lot in the last days of hearing Ajahn Chah. Not that I met him, but just hearing the voice of Ajahn Chah saying, my nair, it's not certain. Don't know, it's not certain. And how much the mind wants to create certainty and wants to know and wants to be clear, and then it's like, not sure. And that place is very, it's like it's wide open. That place is open and spacious and peaceful when you're really with it. Not sure. Yeah. And then doubt. Trying to find, that's again connected with certainty, trying to find certainty where there's uncertainty. So if we get caught in that, if we keep trying and trying, then go around and around, and we're then just caught in doubt. So that place of not knowing is actually a very beautiful place to cultivate. Approach to our experience. It's so much more comfortable as an idea to be certain and to know. We were just speaking about this earlier on over the washing up, actually. How being right feels. There's a sense of like wanting to be right, and then well, what if there's no right, or what if we're never right? What if we never arrive at that place of I'm right? It kind of invites us to be not sure. And that doesn't mean that we're always, that we can't make our mind up about anything. You can still do things. You still have agency and make decisions and follow them, but it's with a sense of like, not sure. Let's see where this goes. And that feels more true, really more aligned. with reality. And the more we're aligned with reality, the more peaceful it is. And sometimes in the process of getting aligned with reality, we have to go through a lot of grief, let go of our ideas of how we thought things would be, how we wish they would be. Or it might be rage. We might be raging that it shouldn't be like this, it should be different. And it's like this. So it's, those, it's often the case, we fight against how things are, or we grieve how things are, or we're afraid of how things might be. But when we're aligned with how things are, with the way things are, it's peaceful, there's clarity, there's strength, there's responsiveness. It doesn't make us less capable or able or alive. It makes us more so. And we have to keep reminding ourselves again and again, because it's so easy to forget, and just be a person asserting our personal reality in the world. And we all live in our own world reality in a way. I wonder if you can hear the birds. Can you hear the birds singing? Yeah. They don't usually come so close, but they probably know they want to sing to you tonight.
It's very unusual.
It's quite lovely. Yeah, so how easy it is to just really identify as a person and have these, and this is who I am, and these are my views, and this is my position, and then that place is a place of dukkha, which you may have discovered for yourself. And the more we can tease that apart, understand it, and let go. And this is absolutely not about being a doormat and just like being a nothing. Kind of is about being a nothing, but in the right way, not in the wrong way. But it's definitely not about being a doormat. It's not about squashing things down. It's not about denial. It's about presence and curiosity and investigation and understanding and letting go. So we all have this opportunity, because we've heard the Dhamma, regardless of what's happening in our life. I know that there are people who are working much harder now than they were before the pandemic. There's others who maybe have nothing to do or have been laid off work, don't have work now. It's a whole mix of things. But whatever your situation in life, the Dhamma applies. It always applies. And it's always freeing. It's always uplifting. It's always liberating. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to let go, but it always leads in the right direction. Yes. So I was wondering if I was going to read a poem. Sorry, I keep plugging the poems, but I love this book, The First Free Women. So I'm going to read a poem from here. It's Sumana, Flowering Jasmine. It's just a little poem. Walk through the mind all day and all night. When you find each thought ending right where it began, here your circling ends. Walk through the mind all day and all night. When you find each thought ending right where it began, here your circling ends. circling of samsara, the long cycle that we've been on for goodness knows countless lifetimes. Finding that place where there's stillness, where there's stopping, where there's letting go. So it's accessible to all of us. I'd like to end there. Thank you. So we're new to this, so it's a little bit, it might be a little clunky, but let's see. So if anyone has anything, a question or anything they'd like to share, first of all, Lina Meira, are you able to unmute yourself? I'm not sure. I can do it, can't I? Oh no, I can do it. Okay. Now so you're unmuted. Okay.
Yeah.
I just needed to work out the system. So okay, I think everybody's muted and I can unmute you. So if you put a little message in chat, oh, it's John. And if you'd like to ask a question or to share something, please put a little message in chat down the bottom there. Little one, little speech bubble. You click on it and you can write a little something, or you can, how else can you do it? You can wave. Right?
Yeah.
The trouble is I can't see everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Won't work in that case. With this many people.
No. So please, if you'd like to have it, we've got about half an hour. If you'd like to say anything, give me a little message and then I'll find you and I'll unmute you. So John, staying with awareness, observing, not judging, thinking carefully, thinking clearly, to decide to act. Yes. Just read it out. I don't understand what you're saying.
I would just take the question and then answer it.
It isn't a question, it's just a
Be.
statement. Yeah. Okay, is this private? Okay. So you can have people raise their hands electronically by pulling up participant list. We don't.
Yeah. That's it.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody's teaching us. Oh, it's too big. Make that 12.
You know what I can imagine is that the person who's raising their hand will just come up.
Can you please repeat? Can you say more about? Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to read them out and then answer them without trying to find you because it's too difficult for me. So let's see. Make sure I get everybody there. Can you say more about conditioning wholesome mind states? And then also, can you repeat the sentence about the days and nights are relentlessly passing? So that's actually in our chanting book under the 10 subjects for frequent recollection. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? This should be reflected upon again and again. Days and nights are relentlessly passing. Okay. And say a little more about conditioning wholesome mind states. So essentially, you know, the mind's going to go towards what's wholesome or what's unwholesome. And a great beginning is having the living with it, living with sila, having the precepts as a container, having good ethics is a really good start. If you have good ethics, you're already cutting off a lot of the the stuff that's going to pull you off track. And then you can also live without too much remorse. You may have remorse for things in the past, but you can then you work through that, or you're not creating more and more things to feel remorseful about. So good ethics is a really good beginning or container for cultivating wholesome mind states. And then to be aware of where does the mind tend to go? Does it tend to go into aversion? Does it tend to go into fear? Does it tend to go into greed? Does it tend to go into oblivion? Does it tend to go into confusion or doubt? Where does it tend to go? Or it might be a combination of those. Where does it tend to go? Or does it tend to go into generosity or wanting to settle in the meditation, or mudita, joy for the good fortune of others? So recognizing where does your mind tend to go. So what the Buddha speaks about, frequently paying careful attention. So if you frequently pay careful attention to wholesome states like kindness, generosity, patience, humility, compassion, equanimity, reflection, wisdom, investigation, all of these are all wholesome. They all lead us in the right direction. And if we neglect those qualities, then they get weaker. And if we frequently pay attention to, things that are like sensual stuff, or things that feed negativity, so it can be complicated watching the news. Watch the news, then you start to feel more and more negativity about the political system and the choices that are being made, and there's a million things to get upset about. So if one's not mindful, then you get drawn in, you get pulled into this negativity through the media. It's very easy for it to happen. It's in some ways it's kind of built on that system. Actually, the media tells us all the bad news. It always has done, and now there's kind of quite a lot of it. So very close to home and worldwide both. So it's very easy just to get caught into the negativity, and it can feel very justifiable. So to be aware of, that's why I wanted to mention the hindrances, even though they're very well known and everybody knows about them, but it's so easy just to get pulled into those hindrances and to justify it. So to be careful, to be aware of like what a hindrance is a hindrance, like ill will is ill will, fear is fear, desire, confusion, dullness, restlessness, agitation, fear, anxiety. These are all hindrances to awakening and presence, letting go, cultivating mudita. Mudita is a very important one to cultivate at this time, I think, because there's a lot of things to feel, like compassion. We have to be careful with compassion, because it would be easy to get just sort of pulled into the sorrows of the world and just get pulled down by those now at this time. And that doesn't help anybody. So to, with compassion in meditation, the karuna quality is in that wishing that this being and all being be free from harm and any intention to harm. And with yourself, not just wishing it, but cultivating that, not wishing to harm any living being. This is karuna. That's a wholesome state. Now, all of the Brahma Viharas are wholesome states. And generosity, finding ways to be generous, wholesome state. Sometimes I know some people are working super hard at the moment, so they need to be generous to themselves and to each other. And others maybe have time on their hands, and then finding ways of being generous. And then taking time each day for meditation practice. Maybe do a bit of chanting. There's many ways that we can cultivate wholesome states. So it's consciously putting energy into cultivating the wholesome, and being aware when the mind is pulled into the unwholesome. and then turning it around. So Arpita's finding it difficult to hear. Oh, so it might be Arpita. Yeah. So then there's Linda is saying, I find myself wanting to practice metta and compassion more these days, so that it can more, so that it more is, so it is more my, so that it more is my response more often. That's great, it's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. There's never a wrong time, for cultivating wholesome qualities. And it's something that you can do in the meditation practice. I think it's very important actually each day to spend some time each morning and consciously cultivate metta, and consciously cultivate the heart every morning for a period of time. And then through the day in interactions or in just how you're responding to things. And then also sometimes, like, I think for you all can do it, like sometimes it's good to cheer yourself up, watch something that makes you laugh, and or listen to something that's uplifting and beautiful, and reach out to a friend. There are many things. There are simple things that are wholesome and uplifting. So again, asking about where we can find the chants. So if you go to the homepage of Aloka Vihara website, there's the chant that we'll do each Saturday, is on there. And if you want to look at the whole chanting book, you can download it. Actually, the whole chanting book is in the publications. So it's under what's publications under? What's publications under? No, anyway, you'll find it.
Just look on our website.
You'll find it. It's under publications, and it's the first thing you'll find. Chanting.
And also, if I may say, if you go, if you go to our homepage, there is, in the middle of the homepage, there is a field. It's called Events with the Nuns, upcoming events with the Nuns. You click on that, and there's every online teaching. You click there on the link, which takes you to a blurb with all information, with the text which we are using. There's a link to that. Then there's a sign-in details, a little schedule, and everything. So just go to alokavihara.org on the homepage, upcoming events with the nuns, and there's everything there.
So, okay, it's been posted on there for everyone. You've got it in your chat now.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes, that's lovely. So I want to read another poem since we've got a little bit more time. And this is just about aligning with things as they are. And I think you can. It sounds so simple, just to align with things as they are, to let go. It sounds really simple, and then we can sometimes we just go through so much turmoil to get there. We can go through. It's almost like we kind of, we're sort of running around ourselves, and then finally there's a letting go, and it's like, oh, it was here all along. How did I miss that? So it can be like that sometimes. This is a poem called this is Another Summer, Bhikkhuni. After 25 years on the path, I'd experienced almost everything except peace. When I was young, my mother told me that I would find true happiness only in marriage. Remembering her words all those years later, something in me began to tremble. I gave myself to the trembling, and it showed me all the pain this little heart had ever known, and how countless lives of searching had brought me at last to the present moment, which I happily married. Can you imagine? We've been living together ever since without a single argument. So that's kind of what the Buddha's pointing to. Living with the present moment without a single argument. Accepting, responding, opening to what is. Meeting what is. And until we're awakened, we're still working on it. But at each moment that we experience that is a moment of freedom. And I'm sure that, or not sure, but probably you have experienced those moments from time to time. And just even just like a little glimpse of that, it's like, what a relief. Living with the present moment without an argument, accepting it as it is. And it's not that that the path means that we're not going to get challenged and it's not going to be difficult. I'm really grateful that we have the stories from the Buddha's life. His life was, as a Buddha, it's like as high as you can go, was hugely challenged in ways that we probably would never have to experience ourselves, much more challenged. And yet he was not arguing with the present moment. It was as it was. Things were as they were, and he was able to respond with wisdom and with compassion. So he's like a beautiful light that's held up for us to, like a shining star, that we can look to and work towards or move towards. We each have a little light within us that, if we take care of it, can really be radiant, can be bright and beautiful. And he uses that expression, actually, be a light unto yourself, be a lamp unto yourself, because that light of wisdom is in everybody, of wisdom and love. It's in all of us, and it gets shut down, or it gets cluttered up with stuff, or it gets lost behind those hindrances, actually, behind doubt and fear and aversion and greed and confusion, all of that, sleep. So nurture your light. Think of it like a little, it might be, you might have a great big radiant light, in which case you can enjoy that and just keep radiating it out for all beings. But if you have a little light, you take care of it just like you would with a candle in the wind. You take care of it and nurture it. Let it grow, let it get brighter, until such a time that the fuel runs out and the lamp goes out. So that can be, we can think of that as, that can be at the end of our life, and ultimately it's full awakening. Which reminds me of another poem. I always make little marks of the poems I want to read, and then I end up wanting to read other ones. Let me see if I can find it. So while I'm looking for this poem, I'd like to invite everyone here to connect with that sense of a light in your own chitta, in your own being, and see how it is. See, is it stable? Is it tiny? Is it bright? Is it strong?
That's actually the meaning of Aloka, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the poem of Patachara, Wandering Road. Patachara was one of the bhikkhunis in the Buddha's time, awake enlightened nuns who had she was a good teacher, and she had quite a big following. And this is her enlightenment poem. Farmers turn up the soil, plant seeds and wait. All by itself, water pours down from the sky and turns earth into food. After all these years sleeping on the ground, waking before dawn and begging for every meal, where's my harvest? Late one evening, I was washing my feet after another long day of sitting and walking. The water poured over my feet and onto the ground. I let my mind go, and it flowed downhill with the water toward my little hut. I went inside, sat on the bed, and lowered the wick of the lamp. All by itself, the flame went out. All by itself, the flame went out. So that was her enlightenment moment. And this is a theme that comes up again and again in these beautiful poems of hard work and struggle and effort and feeling I'm not getting anywhere, and it's not, but a very strong dedication. And then at some point, it's like it can feel like that at times. We're not getting anywhere. What am I doing myself? And am I really practicing? And is it really working? And is it really going to get it? Does it really work? And all of those things can be going on. But if there's that intention to keep going, at some point, there's an awakening. There's a waking up. So that's a beautiful image of nibbana, of enlightenment, of flame going out. No more clinging, no more burning. Peace. And we don't know when that's going to happen. Just like her, she's washing her feet, going to a little hut that she's gone through probably hundreds of times. But that was the moment when it all just came together. Or you could say when it all just fell apart. So, don't, even if you're struggling a bit in your practice, or you feel like you're not even practicing because things are all over the place, and you're here right now, you're listening to the Dhamma, you're interested enough to come online. So, find ways to nurture that leaning towards awakening. And I mentioned a few different ways of cultivating wholesome states, and also to read or listen to teachers. Read the suttas. I love to now. I didn't always, but I now love to read the suttas and get the real deep wisdom from the Buddha and his disciples, or listen to teachings, whatever in whatever. So the sutras is a particular language which I had difficulty with for years, but now I quite appreciate. But whatever language works for you, whatever style, whatever way works for you, whatever way the teaching gets in and lands, take that in, nourish yourself with it. This is the kind of nutriment that's good, that's beneficial. Okay. So I'm going to end there.